Before Elden Ring and all previous Souls games, you could be invaded even if you were by yourself. In Elden Ring, this feature was removed. You could only be invaded if you were co-oping, or if you had used a Taunter's Tongue to summon an invader. This change is something I strongly objected to at the time. And the reason I objected to it was because I like invasions. I like invading and I like being invaded. Being invaded throughout the course of a playthrough is something I highly value in my Souls games. But I don't like co-op and I almost never use it. Which means that in Elden Ring, going through the game for the first time and when I've replayed it to make my various builds has been a very lonely affair. And the Taunter's Tongue is no solution to this problem, because the Taunter's Tongue is stupid. It sucks for two reasons. Number one, it's not an invasion if I invite someone into my game. I need non-consensual invasions. I need to be walking around, dealing with enemies, and then on the bottom of my screen it says, "Oh my god, you've been invaded." And I need the potential to exist for that to happen in inopportune moments, not whenever I feel like it. And the second reason that the Taunter's Tongue sucks is that it doesn't just make me invadable. It doesn't put me in the same invadable state that I would be if I was co-oping. So when you're co-oping, you might get an invader at some point, and then once you kill that invader, there will be some time before you get another one, which makes it a surprise if and when it happens again. The way it works in co-op is how it always worked in previous Souls games, even if you were by yourself. But the Taunter's Tongue doesn't do that. If it did that, then maybe we would have less of a problem. What it does is put you in a perpetual state of being invadable. So the moment that you use it, you're likely to get invaded. And the moment that you kill that phantom, you're likely to get another one, and another one. And that, at that point, that has nothing to do with an invasion. An ideal invasion happens as you're going through the level. It's a surprise that occurs when you're doing other things. The Taunter's Tongue is just for dueling next to a Grace until somebody finally kills you. It sucks. It's no good. And it is for these reasons that I initially objected to Elden Ring removing solo host invasions. And I think all of those things are still true. I still believe all of that, but I've changed my mind overall. The problem was I was thinking about this from the perspective of the invaded. I was thinking of what I wanted out of being a host. But from the perspective of an invader, my opinion is almost the exact opposite. I don't ever want to invade a solo host ever again. Because when you invade a solo host, whether it's now in Elden Ring or back in the day with Dark Souls 3 or any of the other Souls games, one of a few things happen. The most likely thing that I see is that when you invade someone that's by themselves, they will be standing around a bonfire. You'll get somebody at the first Grace, or you'll get someone in Liurnia next to the boiled crab shack, and they just want to duel. You're being summoned there to fight in a situation where they have the advantage. They'll have maxed out Estus flasks, and you'll have half of whatever you brought into the invasion. They'll have their rune arc activated, and you, as an invader, don't. These are bonfire duelists. And even if they don't have their rune arc activated, and even if they don't use their healing until you use your healing, this is still just a duel. I did not come here to duel. If I wanted to duel, I would have gone to the arena. I have no interest in this. I came here to invade. I came here to stop a guy from getting to the end of the level. These bonfire duelists are especially unpleasant because they clog up the available invasions. If they're using the Taunter's Tongue, they'll get prioritized. So whether you win or lose, when you go back to your own world and you try invading again, you're likely to get that same person because they're still using the Taunter's Tongue, they're drawing in invaders to them. And this kind of situation will arise even if the host isn't intending for that situation to arrive. So in Dark Souls 3, where you did have solo host invasions, what would often happen is a host will be going through the level, and then the host will see, oh, I'm getting invaded. And at that point, he will stop going through the level, return to the bonfire, and fight you there. And he's doing this because he doesn't want to be in an extreme disadvantage. He's by himself. If he dies next to the bonfire, he can pick up his souls and continue onward. This type of player isn't intending to turn the invasion into a bonfire duel, but it is what ends up happening. And what I've noticed is that this kind of thing happens a lot less when the host has co-op partners, even if it's just one other co-op partner, because they know that having two people is an overwhelming advantage. And so hosts and their phantoms will be more likely to have the courage to pursue you into the level, into situations where other enemies get involved. And for me, that's the ideal invasion scenario. That's what I like the most out of invasions. The host has his phantom or phantoms, and he has twice as much Estus as I do. And because of the way invasions work, he's more likely to be at a higher level. The phantoms can't hit each other or interrupt each other's attacks. And in exchange, I have the whole level that they have to go through. There are lots of places with a high enemy density that are dangerous for them to attack. This achieves a kind of parity. It's not complete parity. The host still has the advantage, and he knows that, but there's a chance for either one of us to come out on top. But since the odds are in the host's favor, they're more likely to proceed into the level and allow me to make use of enemy NPCs. Even if he's unwilling and he wants to stay just out of the range of the enemy NPCs while still harassing me, I can go out from safety, attack the host's group, and if things are going badly for me, retreat back to the enemies, and from safety heal. Maybe I retreat back to the enemies, and one of the phantoms thinks that they can get me before I get to safety. They overextend, they push farther than they should be, and they give me an opportunity to counterattack. Having multiple companions gives hosts and phantoms the courage to be reckless. Not every time, of course, but it's far more likely. And for me, as an invader, that's the ideal invasion. A host and his phantoms organically trying to go through the level, and me interfering with them, using the level to my advantage when I can. And this ideal state is not something that happens almost ever when I'm invading a solo host. Because he's by himself, a solo host, even someone that's trying to naturally go through the level, will not continue to go down into the level, which can be hard enough for many people. He'd have to fight the enemies and me. Most people are not going to put themselves at that kind of disadvantage. They will fight me at the bonfire, or they will fight me outside of the enemy's aggro range, and I don't fault them for it. I'm not complaining that they do that. They should do that, but it's not very fun for me as an invader. I came here to invade, to be at a disadvantage, to have to fight a group, to get pushed back into the level, and to try and use that level to take out the host or one of the phantoms, making this situation easier for myself. I live for that moment when you're fighting a group of 3, and you finally get one of those phantoms to overextend and kill them. The 3v1 turns into a 2v1. The dynamic that had been here up until this point shifts because it's much easier to fight 2 people than 3. And if you manage to take out the second phantom, the host that had been pursuing you so aggressively, attacking you so relentlessly when he had his buddies with him, now finds himself alone. That's my ideal invasions, and it's not something that you're going to get if you're just dueling solo hosts by a bonfire. Now, admittedly, there is one situation involving invading a solo host that is super fun, and that's if you get a solo host that is way better at PvP than you are. So you invade a solo host, and he's organically going through the level. He's killing enemies, he's picking up items. Maybe this is even his first time seeing this area. But then you get to him, and he's cracked. He's way better than you at this, and if you fight him one-on-one, you know you're gonna lose. So you retreat back to the enemies to heal, expecting that he's gonna stay out of the enemy aggro range, like most solo hosts will. But he doesn't. He chooses to continue to explore the level. He continues to pick up items, he continues to engage enemies that are in his way, and he will fight and chase you even if you retreat to what you think is safety. And so in this case, you will retreat from advantageous position to advantageous position. The host will come and attack that position, fight you off while killing off all the enemies, and when you run out of enemies, you retreat back to another advantageous position. And you continue this until either the host kills you, or you and the enemies manage to bring him down. Or you could make him run out of healing from having to engage in all of these encounters, making it easier for you to finish him off. This situation is super fun. It's admittedly rare. In all the time I've been playing Souls games, I can probably count the number of times this has happened in one hand. And so this brings me to what I would want going forward. Assuming future Souls games have invasions, how should they be structured? Well, in my opinion, the ideal situation is to have the Elden Ring system, where you can't get solo host invaded by default, but then have an item you can use that will let you get invaded organically, naturally, not like the Taunter's Tongue. The Taunter's Tongue should still exist and put you in a perpetual state of invadability. It should still remain as the invite people to come to your world and fight at the bonfire item. But there should be a second item that will simply put you in the same pool as people who are engaging in co-op. So what this means is that you are not perpetually invadable, and you're not guaranteed to get invaded right away. you are simply put into the same pool. That way you're not invaded right away, it's a surprise when it happens, there's a cooldown for when you are able to get invaded again after you kill a phantom, and the effect persists after death, only going away when you turn it off manually. And this I think solves all of the problems. It solves the problem for me as a host, because it allows me to get invaded in a normal way. And hopefully any host that does the same is confident enough that they'll be able to fight off the average invader while also progressing through the level by themselves, hopefully providing a good interaction for both parties. As an invader, this is ideal, because most of the invasions I will get will still be with co-op groups, since by default, solo host invasions is turned off. If I get Taunter's Tongue people sitting at a bonfire, it'll be immediately obvious and I can just choose to leave if that's not what I'm interested in doing. And if I see a solo host going through the level naturally, then I can attack him guilt-free, since I know he's confident enough to put himself in that system. Anyway, that's the end of this video. As always, thank you very much for watching.